Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon, nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon, nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon, nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon, nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon, nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon, nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon, nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk.
Good night, everyone. We're listening, watching from around the world and the Eastern Caribbean. Welcome to an edition of the Make We Talk program. Good evening, good morning, good night. Wherever you are in the world, you tune in from. This is Make We Talk, the voice of the Caribbean people, the platform where chat real truth and issues that face everyone. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tavares. Come in to the live and let us reason together. My special guest this evening will be Dr. David Mohammed. He is the representative in Trinidad and the Eastern Caribbean of Louis Farrakhan and the nation of Islam. We'll be speaking about issues facing the Caribbean. Why is it that the chairman of CARICOM, Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, is so silent, and the tension that is growing between Venezuela and the United States? So my special guest this evening will be, he was born in England. He went back to Trinidad in 1978 with his parents. He's present back to Trinidad and he's back in the Caribbean. He is the Trinidad and Eastern Caribbean representative of Mr. Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. He is my special guest. We're going to wait for him to come on. But the topic this evening will be the silence of CARICOM chairman Andrew Holness. Why is he so silent? What is brewing in the Caribbean? What is going on in the Caribbean right now? We're in Venezuela and the United States is on the brink of war. The silence of CARICOM chairman Andrew Holness has risen tension between Venezuela and the United States. What will be the impact on the Caribbean? Tonight, we turn our attention to the storm brewing in the Caribbean. A storm not made by wind and rain, but missiles, warships, political silence, and diplomatical tension. as the United States intensify military violence in the Caribbean waters, and Venezuela stand in defeat as the region grows on edge. But here's my question. Where is CARICOM? And where is the chairman, Jamaica's own Prime Minister Andrew Holness? Where are the guns and global powers to point out what is going on within the Caribbean? CARICOM often voice has been silent. And the silence of CARICOM and the Secretariat is deafening. And so we, the people, are asking questions tonight. What is going on with CARICOM? Why is it that our own Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness is so silent? Well, tonight, we're going to have a gentleman out of the Caribbean. He is an outspoken person from Trinidad. And as we wait for him to come on, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe as we have a robust discussion tonight. As we're going to have a robust discussion tonight on the silence of CARICOM. Many of us are asking the same question. Why is it that Jamaica's Prime Minister is so silent? Here we go. Dr. Mohammed?
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, but I can't see you.
You should be. Let me just...
There you go.
Right, yes.
I can see you now. Let me introduce my guest tonight. He was born in Trinidad and Tobago. No, sorry. He was born in England and returned to Trinidad and Tobago with his parents. He is the representative of the Nation of Islam, Dr. David Mohammed. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on once again, Brother Jeffrey.
I haven't seen you in a long time, Dr. Mohammed. You're so busy.
Yes, it's been a while, but I've been continuing the work, and I was traveling to a few different countries over the last couple of years, but I haven't stopped with the mission.
Yes. Dr. Mohammed, you're aware of the tension growing in the Caribbean between Venezuela and the United States.
Yeah. Yes.
And we hear nothing from the chairman of CARICOM, who is Jamaica's own Prime Minister, Andrew Holness. Your take on that, sir?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, it's difficult for me to see CARICOM as silent on this matter. I might not have heard from your Prime Minister specifically, but I do understand that there has recently been a joint statement from CARICOM, from different organizations, and organizations, movements, associations, and individuals, of which my own signature was affixed to. That was read out by our brother, head of the Movement for Social Justice, David Abdullah, representing, I think, in all, about 20 Caribbean territories, both the 15 members of CARICOM and non-CARICOM members.
Associated members.
Yes. And I was pleased with the strength of the statement. My understanding is that it represents all Caribbean people, whether they were party to the statement or not. It seems to be a fair reflection of the pattern of thinking of us as Caribbean people, making solidarity a first priority. And again, without looking individually at what specific responses might have been or should have been from different individuals or groups, I think the statement was a satisfactory one, a strong one, and I stand in solidarity with those who have called for the Caribbean to be a zone of peace.
Mm-hmm. Your own Prime Minister, Dr. Mohammed, Dr. Kamala Prasad Beseso, is her take on all of this is totally different, sir?
Apparently so. I am not in a position to discuss the government of Trinidad and Tobago's position on it. What I do know for a fact is that myself, along with colleagues and friends and associates, both inside Trinidad and Tobago and outside Trinidad and Tobago, are 100% in support of the idea of solidarity and peace as a CARICOM region, and that our nationhood and collective sovereignty should be respected. You know, that is how the majority of us feel, I have reason to believe.
Mm. Do you think that CARICOM take a little while to really respond to this? And do you believe that although they have sent out a statement, do you believe that the chairman of CARICOM should address the citizens of CARICOM?
An address would be welcomed. A direct statement from the chair of CARICOM would also be welcomed. But Brother Jeffrey, you see, this is not the first time that we would have been failed by politicians. And this would be the same reason why persons like myself and related interest groups would have always called on us to empower grassroots organizations, that when the government does not speak for the people, that the people could speak for themselves. I mean, I should not have to wait for my government to say something on behalf of people in Trinidad and Tobago when I can connect directly with my people in Antigua, in Guyana, in St. Vincent, in Jamaica, in Dominica and Grenada, in St. Lucia and St. Kitts. We have to have independent grassroots people's organizations to also lift our voices, as was done by our brother David Abdullah and others, so that we can register our concerns. I would hate for anyone across the Caribbean, as I frequently travel throughout the Caribbean, to be of the view that because I come from a particular part of the Caribbean, that I am automatically aligned with the government's position in that part of the Caribbean. I would hate to think that someone in another part of the region would pick up a newspaper, see a statement from the government of the country that I am in, or a statement from the government of any other country, and then proceed to assume that the citizen that is from that particular country automatically sees things the same way as them. We went through this before when there would have been, whether it's disagreements or differing points of view from different Caribbean countries on a specific matter. And then we meet people from another part of the Caribbean, that there's this automatic assumption that all citizens from that outlying territory all of a sudden unanimously agree with that view. And it is absolutely not so. And I am therefore glad also for this opportunity to make that position clear in a discussion such as this.
based on all that you see going on right now between Venezuela and the United States, Dr. Mohammed, should the
Between,
should the CARICOM people or Caribbean people, should they be very concerned of what the United States is doing, and basically the members of CARICOM, the chairman and others, are really silent?
well, let me say this, and this might sound a bit peculiar, and I don't mean for it to sound that way, but in response to you asking me if we as citizens of the Caribbean should be concerned, I would say we as citizens of the Caribbean should be eternally vigilant about the United States of America and their relationship with the Caribbean. Because ever since the Monroe Doctrine of the late 1700s and a number of other official United States government positions, such as the Platt Amendment, the Corollary Agreement, America declaring themselves as the world's policeman, and a number of other steps that have been taken, we need to be vigilant over the fact that America has previously invaded parts of the Caribbean. They invaded Haiti after the Haitian Revolution.
Yes.
In 1915. They invaded Cuba. They participated in a coup to overthrow the government of Panama, to build the Panama Canal. They invaded the Dominican Republic. They invaded Grenada. And even when you look outside of the Caribbean, right next door to Latin America, they were involved in a number of overthrows of legitimately and democratically elected governments because those governments did not have a favorable trade relationship with the United States. One of the best examples is Guatemala in 1954, had a very progressive president named Jacobo Arbenz, who had nationalized the agriculture industry. And there was this American company called the United Fruit Company that was making millions and millions of dollars off paying Guatemalans minimum wage to exploit their agriculture industry, fruit. Jacobo Arbenz, in putting a stop to that, was overthrown by a United States-backed coup. You had President Manuel Noriega of Panama. You even had the Contra rebels of Nicaragua, of whom the CIA, based on the information that was released from the Freedom of Information Act, were participating in the trafficking of illegal cocaine to fund the Contra rebels in their overthrow of the Sandinista government. You have this publication, Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, lists and itemizes a number of these kinds of exploits. And Venezuela is no different. Many people don't know, but Venezuela has the largest deposits of oil in the world. Venezuela has more oil than Saudi Arabia, than Iran, than Iraq, than Kuwait. And we have to question ourselves, is it an accident that Venezuela, who have had, again, a pro-people government under Hugo Chavez and now through his successor, Nicolas Maduro, that they, in their Bolivarian movement, have shunned the kind of trade relationship with the United States of America. And then all of a sudden, we're seeing this hostility towards them. We, as Caribbean citizens, need to be properly educated on Caribbean studies so that we would know. Even the CIA, with 3 assassination attempts against Prime Minister Michael Manley in Jamaica in 1976, the instigation of the food riots, the overthrow of, or the action against Oliver Serafine in Dominica to support Eugenia Charles, who became a supporter of America for the Grenada Revolution. Even the installing of Augusto Pinochet in Chile. All of these are coups, revolutions, bloodshed that has been consistently supported by the United States of America over the last 100 years. Now here we are in 2025, and we're looking at Venezuela. Should I believe that all of these ships that are being destroyed are drug traffickers? And even if they are drug traffickers, is there not a system called due process where you apprehend such persons and bring them to trial? And then if they're found guilty, then bring about whatever penalty would be proportionate to their crime? You cannot just take military action and execute outside of any judicial process citizens from another country and then claim to respect that country. And I think by the fact that we are, many of us, bystanders to what's taking place, in a way, it comes across as a kind of complicity in it. And it's a very dark day for the Caribbean in that regard.
Wow. Dr. Mohammed I heard the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, PJ Patterson, came out and made a statement. Would you say that the diplomacy between the United States and CARICOM has gone down the drain, sir? Why is it that
would I say that the diplomacy between the United States and CARICOM, what, sorry?
Gone down the drain? In other words, there's no diplomacy going on between CARICOM and the United States?
It's difficult to summarize it. I don't think that the government of the United States of America is really interested in diplomacy, so to speak, because you're disrespecting another region's sovereignty. There's nothing diplomatic about that. Maybe what they want is for heads within the region to silently sit by or stand by as non-participant observers and bystanders and simply sanction and support what they're doing. But
Dr. Mohammed, some people in the Caribbean may say that Trinidad and Tobago is doing that, sir. Are you hearing me?
Brother Jeffrey, right. Some people in the Caribbean may say
that Trinidad and Tobago is facilitating, the whole thing where America is going on with.
Right. And this is the reason that I, as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, and as a representative of an organization that represents people in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean, I'm registering my position on this, which is not necessarily aligned with that of the government.
Because when you look on the whole thing, Dr. Mohammed, let me do this right here. When you look on the whole thing, Dr. Mohammed, the current chairman of CARICOM, he professed that he and Marco Rubio is good friends. And you would believe that Prime Minister Holness would have having dialogue with Mr. Rubio.
Right.
CARICOM was formed as a format of unity for the Caribbean for the Caribbean nation and one people. The chairman of CARICOM is expected to give a speech. I expected to say something about this, but the deafening silence of the chairman of CARICOM and other members of CARICOM, in other words, they take a little while to to really respond to what is going on in between Venezuela and the United States.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that. And again, I am not familiar with the response of the Prime Minister of Jamaica.
He didn't make
But
a response, sir. He has
right.
nothing at all.
But I would rather, and in particular for all intents and purposes of this conversation, I would rather stand with pride behind, say, the response of the Prime Minister of Barbados.
Yes.
Who I think would have very accurately represented the position of the entire Caribbean on this. So rather than lament over the silence of some, I would prefer to rejoice over the statements of others that I am in support with, because that's how politics is. There will always be those who are attempting to toe a particular line that would serve a specific purpose. I don't share that purpose, therefore, I would not align myself with those positions. And I think that the Caribbean is, in addition to being a zone of peace, I'd like to believe that we're also a zone of strength to be able to represent our position on this as, and again, I use the term, as grassroots personnel.
For those who are just joining us, we're speaking to Dr. David Mohammed, and we're speaking about the silence of CARICOM Chairman Andrew Holness as the tension between Venezuela and America intensified. And many people throughout the Caribbean, I know within Jamaica, is saying that the Prime Minister is a bit silent. Let me go this route with you, Dr. Mohammed. If there should be a all-out war between the United States and Venezuela, within the Caribbean waters, what sort of impact you think that will have on the Caribbean and when it comes on the tourism?
Well, it is probably already having an impact on tourism for the Southern Caribbean. I mean, thankfully, Trinidad and Tobago's economy, and also the economy of Guyana, who are right next door to Venezuela, are not as heavily dependent on tourism as, say, further up north and west of the Caribbean are. It certainly would have some kind of impact on the perception of the region as well. And that's before there is any direct action, if there is to be any. So that part has already occurred. That aspect of things has already taken place. And should all out war break out, as you mentioned, it's very difficult to predict exactly how that would go. Because we cannot always only and solely rely on what's reported in the media on these things. Take, for example, the Vietnam War. If we're to learn the history of these kinds of standoffs, I know the proximity to us in the Caribbean is a major factor in this one. But the Vietnam War, for example, America lost the war, and they lost the Vietnam War miserably as well. And the reason for that was because it was not the American military that was fighting against the Vietnamese military. It was the American military that was fighting against the Vietnamese people. And as a country, again, in the name of their own sovereignty, with pride of their heritage, they all participated in the war. The doctors, the nurses, the teachers, the lawyers, the elderly, the children. As a community, they saw themselves as defending themselves as a united front. In fact, when America lost the war, it is said that just the equipment that they left back in Vietnam made Vietnam the fourth most well-equipped army in the world, with America's leftovers from running. And the death toll was also extraordinarily high for an American conflict, 58,000 soldiers. I don't think there's been any other conflict since where 58,000 American military personnel died. And you don't know what's happening on the ground when it comes to this kind of conflict. Take, for example, in America, just last week, you had millions of people, apparently quite a few millions of people, protesting against the action of their own government in 2,500 different marches, protests, and uprisings. So not only is America, or not only will America be fighting against Venezuela, but America is also fighting in a propaganda war against its own population.
Mm.
And that is clearly an uphill battle. We're not 100% certain what kind of support they will get internally for their war, similar to the war against Iraq after 9/11. The people of America did not support this. In fact, I haven't even seen one single news item about the millions, several millions of people in America who are protesting against the action of their own government. So you add those dissenting voices to the dissenting voices in the Caribbean region, and you get a mass movement that would be very difficult to solve, except by some kind of dictatorship or similar to what we're seeing. Killing first and not even bothering to ask questions later. So I don't think in this day and time that is a formula or a recipe for victory on the part of America, but I do hope in observing that justice will prevail.
Yes. Dr. Mohammed, some may say that Venezuela is trying to overtake or have a war between Guyana and themselves. Your take on that?
Right. So when it comes to that, and I would have made myself very clear in a couple posts that when it comes to the conflict between Guyana and Venezuela over the land dispute of Essequibo, we support and stand with Guyana 100%, because Guyana are our CARICOM brothers and sisters. They're our CARICOM neighbors. But when it comes to America versus Venezuela, then I have to be cautious. And I have to think twice about the fact that this consistent history that America has is one that would cause any intelligent thinking person to raise a lot of questions. So again, I don't want to use this conflict as a means to apportion support between two countries that are in conflict in one arena and not in conflict in another arena. CARICOM, regardless of what, I believe, needs to stand strong. I believe CARICOM must support one another. We're a united political entity that has a significant history going back to the Treaty of Chagarama, signed in Trinidad and Tobago on July 4th, 1973. And that has great heritage value. And I believe we should stand with Guyana in the conflict or the land dispute with Venezuela. But when it comes to the region, I believe that we should also support Venezuela in that, or as far as having a judicial process to determine the innocence or guilt of persons who are accused of being such, and certainly those who are executed extrajudicially. That, I believe, is unacceptable by any measure.
Dr. Mohammed, you spoke
Yes,
about the Treaty of Chaguaramas.
yes,
For those who don't know what that treaty is all about, can you please go in depth with it, please, for our listeners and viewers who are watching us from around the world and the Eastern Caribbean?
yes. So it would have started with the Federation of the West Indies,
Mm-hmm.
where 10 Caribbean nations were united as one in 1958, which lasted for 4 years up to 1962. But the Federation of the West Indies, even though there were 10 Caribbean nations combined, including Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Barbados, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, and Anguilla,
Mm-hmm.
Dominica, Antigua, Grenada, and there was one more,
Is it St. Lucia?
Bahamas.
Bahamas.
Yeah, I would have said St. Lucia.
Mm.
Um, no, I don't think Bahamas was part of it. Anyway, you had 10 nations,
Yes.
but all of them were colonies. All right. So, in the pursuit of independence, Jamaica pulled out, became independent on August 6, 1962. Then Trinidad and Tobago pulled out, became independent on August 31st, same year, 1962. And then the remaining 8 tried to maintain a union for a bit, but it collapsed in the pursuit of independence for each nation. Of course, Guyana became independent on May 26, 1966, and then Barbados on November 30th, 1966. But then in 1968, CARIFTA was established, which was the Caribbean Free Trade Area, which now included Belize and Guyana,
Mm-hmm.
but did not include Grenada. And so CARIFTA was a move towards unification, but the Treaty of Chaguaramas was signed, as we said, July 4th, 1973, where at the time there were only 4 independent Caribbean countries in the English-speaking territory, which were, and the 4 signatories were Prime Minister Michael Manley of Jamaica, Prime Minister Dr. Eric Williams of Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister Forbes Burnham of Guyana,
Mm-hmm.
and Prime Minister Errol Barrow of Barbados. The 4 of them signed the Treaty of Chaguaramas in Trinidad on July 4th, 1973. And then Grenada would have become independent under Eric Gary the next year. And subsequently, the remainder of Caribbean nations became independent and joined CARICOM. So at the time it started off with just 4 countries. There are now 15 CARICOM countries, including some non-English speaking ones, such as Haiti, who are full members of CARICOM, Suriname, who speak Dutch, are full members of CARICOM, Belize, who speak both English and Spanish, are full members of CARICOM, all right? And Montserrat. Montserrat is the island that I left out this time. Montserrat. And now these 15 countries have also signed on to the CSME, which is the CARICOM Single Market and Economy,
Yes.
which has the objective of the Caribbean as a region becoming borderless to each of its other member states, where citizens of any of the CARICOM countries would have the right to live and work in other Caribbean countries. And with this being the case, it therefore becomes an important objective for each of us to have a shared common understanding as it pertains to global matters, because there are a number of other sub-institutions under CARICOM that require our full and complete cooperation. For example, the CCJ, the CARICOM Court of Justice, which has as its mission to replace the Privy Council as the final court of appeal in legal matters. And then you have a number of other institutions, such as the University of the West Indies. We have the West Indies Cricket Board of Control. We have the Caribbean News Agency, CANA, and again, several other institutions that are region-wide that have the involvement of other countries within the region, and that, again, use expertise, professionalism, and personnel from human resource taken from across the region, which all reinforce the needed position that each of us work together as one CARICOM and speak with one voice.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Mohammed, do you believe that CARICOM has, one would say, outstay its duty in the sense of really bringing the Caribbean people together? Would you say that CARICOM makes no sense anymore?
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. The world is moving towards unification arrangements like this, which tend to empower each of the countries.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why the president of the United States of America is the most powerful man in the world is because North America are the United States. South America are the divided states.
Mm.
I could assure you that if North America were 50 separate countries, California is one country, New York is one country, Florida is one country, Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
Ohio, Arkansas, Texas, Michigan, if all of those were individual countries, and South America was one country, and Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Chile, if those were different states in one country, I can assure you
Mm-hmm.
that the president of South America would be the most powerful man in the world. And I could also assure you that we probably might not even know who the president of each of those North American states are. Their power comes from their unity. They can become immediately weak if they were to become immediately divided. The same principle would apply to CARICOM. The only strength or power we would have on the world stage is if we speak with a united voice.
Mm-hmm.
If we are able to tap into and access the skill, the expertise, the occupations and professions of those who are human resources, as well as the mineral and physical resources, the oil of Trinidad and Tobago, the bauxite of Jamaica, the lumber industry of Guyana, the fish of Barbados, the nutmeg of Grenada, the tourism of St. Lucia and Antigua, and all these countries that have a wealth of resources in and among them. If those resources are pooled and combined, then each region becomes strengthened. And once we're strengthened on the world stage, we automatically become more respected. But if we're bickering, quarreling, and squabbling amongst ourselves with each other, it makes us weak.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, at moments like this, I much prefer to look at our common thread where we have found a sense of agreement or unanimity and singleness of aim, goal, destiny, direction, and purpose, and build on that rather than lament on the differences between us, which are what benefits our enemies.
But some people are saying now, Dr. Mohammed, that what is going on now within the region,
Mm-hmm.
where there's no, maybe there's dialogue behind the scene with the U.S. authorities, but
Yeah.
do you think that CARICOM should may ask for a summit with U.S. authorities pertaining to this?
I don't think that would be a bad idea at all. But what I certainly would not like to see is, instead of a summit, have a summons where CARICOM leaders are summoned to America to be told how to respond.
Hmm.
I don't want to see our leaders of these proud countries and this proud region to be lectured to by America on what position we should take. We should meet and summit with each other and then come out with a unanimous position. So, yes, there will be little differences and disagreements among member states of CARICOM, but we should not come out of the room with divided opinions. We should come out of that room standing on a collective principle with the support and making, again, the people the first priority in any kind of meeting like this, and then represent that on the world stage. We should be able to iron out those individual differences separately behind closed doors. But when it comes to speaking with one voice on the outside, I think that would be a very important position to take, because I'm sure, well, I don't know, but I would believe, I would expect the Latin American countries to have a unified stance on that. And if, for example, if you have the 10 states of South America coming together in a forum, and let's say 9 were to agree and 1 were to disagree, out of those countries, again, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Ecuador, Colombia, Peru, Chile, Venezuela, and Bolivia. If one of those 10 were to have a contrary position to the other 9, then that one automatically becomes the weakest link. And that one would automatically become the country that will be targeted by the enemy to exploit, maybe even bribe or threaten or offer inducements to go along with the objective of the invader or the conqueror or the colonizer. So even if there is one with a differing view, that should not be made public for concerns over us being further fragmented. And so if we can come out of the room, come out of the summit, come out of the meeting with that united position, then it strengthens all of us. And I would expect that is the position that South America had taken, because I'm sure they would have had some kind of correspondence with their neighbors on the matter in the same way that we're having correspondence with each other as members of CARICOM.
Do you believe that Nicolas Maduro and let's say Rolf Gonzalez of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph,
Yeah.
you know, maybe he should be the mediator between the United States and Venezuela?
I think Dr. Gonzalez will make an excellent mediator. I think in the past he has portrayed or played such a role of mediator in those kinds of disputes or disagreements. And I think he would do an excellent job at that. But I also think that really any of our representatives should be capable of doing that. And I would say Trinidad and Tobago in particular, based on what's at stake for us in this region, because we are the closest in terms of distance, or even Guyana, who are right next door. But yes, some mediation could take place. And I think all of us have arguably a good relationship with the United States of America. All of the Caribbean countries have citizens who tend to frequent the United States of America, even though many of us go through hell to get visas and travel approval. But yes, some kind of mediation would definitely be a good idea. But then again, too, is America willing to mediate? Are they willing to listen to any other view other than their own?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, again, I don't want to presume that they don't, but certainly some kind of mediation would be welcome.
And in all of that, mediation is welcome, yes. But do you believe that although a Dr. Rolf Gonzalez is the best person maybe to mediate
Mm-hmm.
between Venezuela and the United States,
Yeah.
but do you think that right now, where it stands now, of what is going on, of building up of warships and submarine and all these things,
Mm-hmm.
and CIA is being threatened that they're going to go into Venezuela and so forth? Is it that we're going to see a style of what happened in the 1980s here in Jamaica?
On terms of, are you referring to the Grenada Revolution?
Well, I'm referring to both the Grenada Revolution and CIA coming into Jamaica during the 1980s and the 1980s election. Are we going to see something like that in Venezuela?
You see, during that period when the CIA entered Jamaica, they had a Prime Minister, Edward Seaga, who was very friendly and receptive towards United States intervention in the region. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, there were three of them. There was Prime Minister Edward Seaga of Jamaica, there was Tom Adams of Barbados, and there was Eugenia Charles of Dominica, all three who welcomed America into the region, into Grenada. We would have not seen much visible positive outcomes as a result of American intervention. And we could look beyond the Caribbean to see evidence in that. I spoke about Guatemala a short while ago. Guatemala has had one of the highest crime rates in the world ever since. Places like El Salvador, Honduras, Panama have extraordinarily high crime rates. I'm talking about the top 10 in the world, all of whom have been interfered with by America. Look at places like Iraq. America went in there, they occupied Iraq, Syria, and based on their intervention, you have had some of the most inhumane controls that we've seen in the history of the world. Afghanistan. I mean, the levels of destabilization that have followed any kind of American intervention have been unfathomable. And there's hardly a country where they did not go to and have left where they did not leave behind a trail of blood. So this history is not a secret, okay? It's not hidden, it's not buried, it is taught in courses at the University of the West Indies. It's published in our textbooks in sociology and social studies. It's part of our actual history. It's our modern history of the Caribbean. So I don't think that anything that I'm saying now will be completely unfamiliar to the average elected official in the Caribbean region. These are things that we already know. But again, you have these political pressures that individuals find themselves under in political office that guide them towards making decisions that are contrary to the best interest of the people. But we have a responsibility to represent the best interest of the people. There will be those who think that they are, but our history speaks volumes as to, this pattern, this modus operandi.
Do you believe that the United States is coming into Venezuela as one thing, but to show to show Caribbean neighbors or Caribbean countries that we're going in there, yes, but we know that you all have drugs coming through your country.
Mhm.
Is it that they're sending a message by doing all of that to other Caribbean leaders who may be involved in corruption?
That is a very, very good point. But I don't think that that is their motive in this instance.
Uh-huh.
First of all, and again, I say that most people who have been elected into office in the Caribbean region should be aware of the extent of the drug trade in our region. I am of the view that major narcotics and illegal drug traffickers have financed political parties.
Hmm.
We tend to, and in most Caribbean nations as well, there's evidence to support that position. As a matter of fact, there's overwhelming evidence in some cases. In some cases, there's proof that this is so. So it's a fact, it's not speculation. And the research that has been made available to us as well highlights this. I don't think that America is as concerned about drug trafficking within Caribbean territories on the circulation of illegal narcotics. I don't think they are as concerned about that happening in our region as they are in preventing it from entering zones in their country that they would not want it to happen. As a matter of fact, we have an attorney general who made a very memorable statement back 26 years ago. In 1999, a person campaigning on a political platform, he was the attorney general at the time, he made a statement where he was talking about, because in 1999, the government of Trinidad and Tobago carried out a number of hangings. They resumed hangings, all right, capital punishment. And 9 citizens who were part of a drug gang, incidentally, the Dole Chady gang, were executed by the state. And an attorney general back then had said on a public campaign platform, he had said that, and he was making reference to the United Kingdom at the time, and he was pointing out that Trinidad and Tobago was being threatened by the United Kingdom that they will withhold aid if we continue these executions, executions, though, right? He's telling the population this.
Yes.
Right? If you continue with these executions, then we will withhold aid. And the Attorney General made the point saying, but that aid goes both ways. It's remarkable what people say sometimes and don't realize what they're saying at the time, and what they said at the time only becomes substantive long after they've said it. He said that aid goes both ways. In other words, they give us aid, but we also aid them. How do we aid them? He said, we aid them by facilitating the illegal drug trade through our region. Now think about that. So in other words, we protect them by having the drug trade come into the Caribbean region instead of going straight through to the United Kingdom and Western Europe, and I guess even also the United States of America. Wait, we're aiding them by doing that? What does that mean? In other words, does that suggest that we are allowing our own people to be destroyed so that their people are not destroyed? That was said 26 years ago. Now, I don't think they are as concerned about drugs being filtered through our region. And there are major drug lords in the Caribbean. And again, according to the writings and the research of Dr. Darius Figuera, these top-level drug lords, they're not Black. They're not of African descent. They are white and Chinese and Syrian and East Indian. But Black people are going to jail for the drug trade. But as long as America is protected or Europe is protected, I don't think that they are as concerned. And so now we have this scenario with the drug trade worsening in our region. Those ships that they're blowing up, whether or not they're carrying drugs, I don't know, because normally when there's a case where someone is prosecuted for drug trafficking, they normally bring the evidence either in the court or the police document the collection or seizure of it, and it's visible. They take photographs of it. They film footage of the seizure. No one has seen any evidence for these ships that they're blowing up in Venezuela. However, if those were boats filled with drugs that were going to distribute drugs in Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Guyana, and everywhere in between, I don't think they would have blown them up at all. They are trying to protect America. They are looking out for American people. They are protecting the borders of America. Fine, if that's their position, but we must protect the Caribbean. We must stand up for the Caribbean. We must represent the Caribbean, and we must speak with a united voice as the Caribbean.
And quite frankly, no, I don't believe. Well, I don't know if CARICOM is speaking with a united voice, because the chairman of CARICOM is very silent. My question to you, though, Dr. Mohammed, you speak about political parties within the Caribbean is accepting drugs money in the sense of running a political campaign. You know, I know we're not really talking about that, but in a sense that has to come into the conversation. I want you to elaborate more on that, because a lot of people within Jamaica, per se, right now, Jamaica has had some over the years. How much drugs came into Ian Flum International Airport, cocaine? You hear nothing more about it. How many drugs come into Jamaican seas? You hear nothing more about it. And you have political parties in this country who have billions of dollars spending on political campaigns.
Yes.
So can you elaborate some more about the whole thing of drugs lords in the Caribbean and money being funded into political parties?
Well, let me say this. First of all, you have very close monitoring of our borders, our region, and our territories by United States military bodies and arms. And we have had a number of different projects, such as the Ship Rider Agreement. We have had presidents and prime ministers of Caribbean countries that have signed off and signed away rights of the Caribbean to America. We have had DEA reports that have remarked on the influence of drug trafficking in the Caribbean region.
Yes.
And we've also had a number of extensive research papers that have highlighted the issue of drug trafficking and politicians. I remember how time flies. 25 years ago,
yes,
some information being brought to me when I was on the radio about one particular member of parliament who was pretty
In
heavily
Trinidad?
involved. Yes.
Okay.
Who was fairly heavily involved in the drug trade.
Wow.
And I spoke about it. You know, I was a lot younger then than I am now. And I was suspended from radio.
Whoa.
At the time. And I remember getting a phone call from the director of programming at the radio station about 4 months later, calling me to basically say, Brother David, you've been vindicated because cocaine and weapons were found on the premises of this individual. And I was subsequently reinstated on the radio station. Right? Let me also make reference to, we would remember the great former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Patrick Manning.
Yes.
Patrick Manning lost the election in 2010. And Dr. Keith Rowley became leader of the opposition. And Mr. Manning was silent for a long time. And then in October the next year, 2011, he broke his silence with a press conference. And this press conference, this is former Prime Minister Patrick Manning. I'm sorry, I can't pull it up for you now, but maybe on our next discussion.
No problem.
Now, he started off the press conference apologizing to Dr. Rowley for, maybe not being as vocal as he should have been in the parliament because he was giving him time to settle in, right? That took about maybe 5 or 10 minutes of the press conference. Then for the remaining hour to hour and a half of this press conference, Patrick Manning spoke about politicians involved with drug lords.
Whoa.
He gave clear, specific details. In fact, you know what? I'm going to try to pull this up right now as we speak.
We're speaking to Dr. David Mohammed, representative of the Nation of Islam for Trinidad and the Eastern Caribbean. We're speaking about CARICOM silence on what is going on between Venezuela and the United States. And we segue into the entire thing about drugs because America is saying that too much drugs is flowing to their country. And we're speaking to Dr. Mohammed. Go ahead, Dr. Mohammed.
Right. So Patrick Manning held this press conference. And it was on October 28th, 2011, where, again, as I said, he started off apologizing to Dr. Rowley for his silence in the parliament.
Yeah.
He said politics is about the development of the people of the country, and for this reason, he has come back out. He said the drug trade is not to be taken lightly. He quoted a June 12th, 2011 article by Anika Gum-Sandiford speaking about politicians hand-picking drug lords on state boards, and that one particular person was assisting the police with a $2 million marijuana haul. He spoke about the last weekend where the Organized Crime and Narcotics Unit was investigating another marijuana bust over the Easter weekend. He made reference to a September 21st report that was reviewed by senior investigators following the discovery of a $34.6 million marijuana haul found in a 40-foot container on September the 15th. He spoke of President General of SWWTU, a trade union, who revealed that there were 13 containers of drugs, and he linked all of these to politicians, some of whom are still around today.
You know, Dr. Mohammed, remember you're going to say, I wish I could hear that out of my own country, Jamaica.
but you know something though, and this is where disappointment in the media comes in. Because what do you think the headline was from that news report the next day? The headline in the news, from all that Mr. Manning would have shared, was former Prime Minister Patrick Manning apologizes to opposition leader Keith Rowley.
That's all?
That's the main takeaway from that story. Everything else was secondary mention. And it goes to show we have, and I don't want to go into too much on this one that I'm going to share with you, but hear this. There is a current person in government, all right, who used to do a lot of social media commentary and so on before he got involved in politics on the level that he's in. A non-African person, non-African, non-Indian. And in one of his past social media posts, he was making a point, and I could quote word for word what he said. He said, I have a partner, a Syrian partner, who does be trafficking cocaine. And I asked him, I said, boy, how you just feel, boy, knowing that you trafficking this thing and you destroying people's lives? And he said, well, if I don't do it, somebody else could do it.
What?
And end of quote. Now, that person is now in government. And there are 101 similar stories to that. And this is why, again, I always call for unity among African people in the Caribbean region, regardless of which territories we find ourselves in, because we have to get together when it comes to business and trade. We have to get together as far as pooling our resources is concerned. We have to get together on the grounds of education, economics, of entering into conglomerates and business groups and be support systems for each other. Because there are those across the Caribbean region who are uniting with each other on the basis of trafficking drugs, on the basis of human trafficking and prostitution. And it's not us Black people. But we are more concerned with petty bickering, squabbling, and small island rivalry between each other, while other groups are empowering themselves. And while they're empowering themselves, they're infecting the Caribbean region. And this is where we need to wake up. And I think the levels that we have been involved with political activity has been on the ground level of desperation, hunger, need, and desire for a job, for some food, for some handout. And we, Black people in Caribbean politics, end up like crabs in a barrel trying to climb over each other to get different regimes in power. And then when they get in power, they turn around and put their foot on the necks of the people. That is why grassroots empowerment must become a major priority, regardless of which part of the Caribbean we are in.
You know, Dr. Mohammed, I sit here and I listen to you, you know. And a friend of mine WhatsApped me a message a while ago and said to me, will we ever hear a former prime minister or a former politician in Jamaica come out and said that he is aware of members of the political elite in our country, Jamaica, who's involved in drugs trafficking? I don't think we'll ever hear that from Jamaica. Because, go ahead.
Well, you know what? Even if it is said, we don't know to what extent the story will be carried or that journalists would demand answers. Because again, the way that, I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. And if I didn't document it, it would have probably been completely forgotten. So the media also has a journalistic responsibility to keep some of these stories alive on the front burner, especially if they're having a continuation of an effect on the lives of the people. And clearly the drug trade does. So the same way that, how could we in the Caribbean region support the killing of mysterious individuals on ships of which there's no evidence whatsoever? How could we support their execution, but still allow drug lords and drug traffickers to live among us, engaged in high-level money laundering, and be seen as distinguished citizens? You know, it's obscene as well as outrageous.
You know something, Dr. Mohammed, and other Jamaicans not gonna like when I speak, even my friends, you know. Jamaica has a thing on every October. They have the National Award ceremony where they give people order of this and order of that, an order of bad odor, an order of old donkey. My take on it, you know, I don't want it. You know why I don't want it, Dr. Mohammed? Because we have seen, looking on, we have seen some notorious criminals and some human traffickers and some child molesters being awarded Jamaica's highest honor. We have some people who preside over ministries where 24 dead baby and they get an award. 24 dead baby under their watch and they get an award. $80-something million to a sweetheart of taxpayers' money where the health sector is in crisis and they get an award. This is what is going on in Jamaica and I'm pretty much sure throughout the Caribbean. So for you to come with us now, Dr. Mohammed, and really explaining this to us by saying, you know, there's so much things going on within the Caribbean where political parties are accepting drugs money to run their campaign. It is the fact truth. And until the people of the Caribbean get together and demand accountability, I believe, Dr. Mohammed, that the Americans, you may say it is not about the drugs or whatever, but I believe the Americans have eyes on some country within CARICOM. That's my take on it.
Well, clearly, I mean, that's not unreasonable to think that or to come to a conclusion like that. You know, and they are free to have their perception. All I'm saying is that we must be prepared to protect and defend our own sovereignty. And only by standing together, speaking with a united voice, do we stand a better chance of preserving that, rather than America to be searching for weak links in the chain to pull at, to try to burst open an avenue to enter and literally infiltrate. I mean, WikiLeaks, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yes.
WikiLeaks released some 800 pages on Trinidad and Tobago elections and their desire
to... last election here?
No. Talking about the days of Dr. Eric Williams, the 1970s and the 1980s. Yes. And they expressed their concern about the closeness of Dr. Eric Williams to Fidel Castro of Cuba. And it was felt that Dr. Eric Williams should have been neutralized because the alliance between Trinidad and Tobago and Cuba posed an ideological threat to America, who was anti-communist. And even though Trinidad has never shown any signs of being communist, the closest that we would have gotten in the English-speaking Caribbean of that would have been Grenada under Maurice Bishop. But they would disapprove of us even being friends with our own next-door neighbors if they perceive it as possibly, potentially, even if it's just 1% of a threat. They're thinking about killing and conquering and invading. So that's the kind of war machine type, blood-lusting, aggression-thirsty regime that we have. And yes, a lot of it would have to do with the current president, but even before him and probably after him too. Well, I'm not so sure about after him, but even before him, you could have had the sweetest, nicest, gentlest American president. The Monroe Doctrine has still been respected regardless, and you still have had this attitude of America being the world's policeman and the big stick policy being exercised in the Western Hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
So that spirit lives on. So it's
Dr.
not just
Mohammed,
about Trump. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Mohammed, there was an article, well, there's a news item coming out of, I think it's Guyana,
Mm-hmm.
where Duncan Mitchell he's the Prime Minister for Guyana?
The president is Irfan Ali.
No, not Guyana. Grenada. Sorry, Grenada.
Deacon Mitchell. Yeah.
Deacon Mitchell, yes. That the Americans wanted to put a satellite system there.
Yeah.
And I hear some people coming out and protesting against it. Your take on the whole idea of putting something there?
Right. Well, again, we should be able to trust a foreign country enough to want to host some kind of technology in our region once it's for the greater good or the benefit of the population. That's how it should be. However, if America have already invaded Grenada within the last 40-something years,
mm-hmm.
and now they're taking military action in the region and destroying ships militarily with no due process,
mm-hmm.
no court hearing, no credible or legitimate determination of the innocence or guilt of the persons that they are executing extrajudicially, then under those circumstances, I think it would be a problem to host some kind of technology in our country for persons who are demonstrating this bloodlust and bloodthirst. So maybe it's not the best idea for Grenada to welcome such equipment in their country right now.
You know. I sit here, and I watch those things, and I keep my comment because I've been told many times by members of my family that especially my wife, I'm too outspoken and I must be careful how I speak. Dr. Mohammed,
Yes,
I will go
sir.
back again, and I know you don't want to speak about it, but I have to.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and one of the examples that I use why I am speaking the way how I'm speaking about the Prime Minister of my country. I respect the office of the Prime Minister, and I respect those or anybody who put in that office, I respect them.
Mm-hmm.
I saw where me and Motley went overseas and came back to the Parliament of Barbados and explained to them how much it costs for her to go overseas, but what grants she get back in return.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Why am I saying this? Because Jamaica's Prime Minister has never said that to the people of Jamaica. Same way, he's silent on the issue with CARICOM. He has been silent on issues with Jamaica. So I don't expect anything better from this Prime Minister. as chairman of CARICOM pertaining to what is going on within the Caribbean region. And for him to be so silent, you know, Jeffrey, don't go down the road here. For him to be so silent, Dr. Mohammed, it is deafening, sir.
Well, Brother Jeffrey, you know very well that my ability and scope to comment on that is very, very limited. And I don't think I have ever, in any interview that I've done
with me,
in any part of the Caribbean, especially with you,
yes.
in any Caribbean region, of which I think I would have done some kind of media in at least maybe 7 or 8, maybe as much as 10 different Caribbean nations. And I don't think I've ever commented negatively on the government nor the opposition. And even in my own country, I refrain from personalizing any observations that I make about political regimes. I do, however, represent the idea of principle which would apply to anyone, regardless of who may be the occupier at that specific time of the office of the Prime Minister or the leader of the opposition. And I think that way, taking that position, we tend to share more of an eternal principle. So when this Prime Minister comes and goes, and then the next one comes and goes, and then an opposition leader comes and goes, and then they play musical chairs with each other and revolve around the door and occupy different positions. When all of that is said and done, the principle remains. The system is rotten at the core. The legislature and the way that it functions has been dysfunctional. Government officials have been corrupt. Elections have been rigged. The very process of our so-called bicameral system under Westminster political structures has not served the best interests of the people. And in all of these governments, the rich have become richer and the poor have become poorer, and people have been the victims of oppression, exploitation, and tyranny. Now, if I attribute those facts to one person as Prime Minister or as leader of the opposition, and then they switch places, as the case may be, and then they vacate office, then we tend to think that the problem is solved. But the problem is never solved by one bad politician coming and going. It's the system. And this is why I make reference to Jesus in the book of Mark. He said, a good tree brings forth good fruit, and a corrupt tree brings forth corrupt fruit. And then he said, to deepen the philosophy in the wisdom, he said, a good tree cannot bring forth corrupt fruit, and a corrupt tree cannot bring forth good fruit. For you know a tree by the fruit that it bears.
Amen.
Now, the tree is the political system.
Yes.
The fruit is the politician. It is the system that is corrupt. All of these individuals who come in, some do good, some do bad. I believe, honestly, in my heart, that there is some element of good in each of them. I believe that even in some cases, the most corrupt among them at one point would have had sincere intentions to serve the people that they are elected with some authority over. But the system perverts, corrupts, infects, and pollutes their authenticity as people who have a genuine concern and love for people, and it twists them. And this is why I said once, and I still say, that I would rather, I so have no faith in this system, right? I so believe that this system is rotten to its core that I would, and I say this figuratively, I would rather elect bad people in a good system than elect good people in a bad system. Because I think we have had good people, but the system is corrupt. So when we take good people and put them in this current system that we have here now and see what they do when they get a taste of that power, it turns them bad. But if we take bad people, where's the thief? Where's the crook? Where's right? Bring them. Let's put them in government. But put them in a good system that if they're caught stealing, we cut off their hand. If they're caught betraying the trust of the people, we put them in jail. If they're caught embezzling and betraying the masses, we put them on trial and lock them up and throw away the key. Then those bad politicians will turn good. But for us, it appears in some cases, the situation has been so dire that we have had bad people in a bad system. So that like amplifies the deviance of the whole thing. But no, honestly and seriously, I believe we have had good people. We have had good people, but the system is bad, and it's very few that fight against the injustice of the system. To me, that's what Michael Manley was. To me, that's what Maurice Bishop was. You know? And I'll throw in some other names there, but those two in particular stand out for me. I think they were good people who really fought hard to have the system work in the favor of the masses.
Wow, we're speaking to Dr. David Mohammed on the issues that is facing the Caribbean and individual countries in a sense. You know, I tell you something. If you listen to Dr. Mohammed speaks about the Westminster system handed down from Britain to countries like Jamaica and other countries throughout the Caribbean. It's a very interesting topic, and I'm going to bring him back here on the program to speak to us about that Westminster system and Jamaica earning to get Republican status. We're going to speak up. We're going to ask you to come and speak to us about that, Dr. Mohammed, one of these days.
Yeah, which is long overdue. I know it almost happened in 2012.
Yes.
It should have happened. And again, it shows you the real hero status of Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados. Because Republican status, I don't think, was as much of a conversation point in Barbados as it was in Jamaica. And then Barbados go on their 50th anniversary of independence. You see, Jamaica were talking about it around the time of their 50th anniversary when Portia Simpson Miller would have been the Prime Minister in 2012. But it didn't happen. And it's been 13 years since.
Yep.
And it's still a conversation point. I know PJ Patterson had spoken up for it as well, but it hasn't happened. Here comes Barbados out of the blue. And in one fell swoop for their 50th anniversary of independence, November 30th, it was 2016, Republic. And there you have it. You know? Or was it 2021?
It was 21.
Yeah, 2021.
Yes. For those who are just joining us, I know Dr. Mohammed have to run now. He has been with us. And, I take him off, in a sense, I called him this evening and I said, Dr. Mohammed, I'm begging you. He's jet lagged. He just came in on a flight back home to Trinidad. And I just want to say thank you for coming on, Dr. Mohammed. Before you go, Dr. Mohammed, I want you to address your Caribbean people, Jamaican people, CARICOM people.
Uh-huh.
I want you to address your CARICOM people and leaders of CARICOM.
Yes. Well, I would say to my CARICOM people, I would ask us to keep priorities that are in the best interest of our populations as front burner, first priority matters. And among them, in addition to the diligent monitoring and scrutiny of our sovereignty as individual states as well as a collective region, being CARICOM, I want us to continue to build on the idea of the Africa CARICOM Union. On September the 7th, 2021, for the first time ever, heads of government of CARICOM countries met in conference with heads of government of African countries. It was during the pandemic, so it was virtual, but this year there was the second such conference. This was on September the 7th, 2025. It was at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And once again, we had representatives from across the Caribbean meeting with heads of government from across Africa. And there have been these objectives of having dual citizenship for people of African descent in the Caribbean for various African countries, and also direct flights between Africa and the Caribbean. And I pray that these issues remain high priority. But I also say to us on the community ground, grassroots level, that we must continue with the kind of pressure pushing initiatives to ensure that these objectives remain important to those who are in government. And even if those who are in government do not take them as seriously as they should, we must form people's movements, people's organizations, and people unity projects to come together, unite, pool our resources, settle our differences, open skills banks and think tanks, and come together on the basis of what we have in common as a shared history, heritage, and legacy as Caribbean people. So, Brother Jeffrey, I want to thank you for the opportunity to share these thoughts, and I look forward so much to our next conversation.
Thank you very much. Dr. David Mohammed.
Thank you.
Representative of the Eastern Caribbean, the Nation of Islam. Thank you so much, Dr. David Mohammed, for coming to the program.
Thank you. Thank you again.
You're welcome, sir. Thanks much. Ladies and gentlemen, people, believe you me, when I sit here sometimes and we wonder what is next in the Caribbean. But based on what we're seeing here, and based on what we as Caribbean people is seeing that is going on around the Caribbean, we're very worried. We are very worried. But you heard what Dr. Mohammed said, and believe you me, we are aware of certain things going on within political parties within the Caribbean, and especially my own country, Jamaica. We're aware of a lot of things. But sometimes it's best that you don't come out point blank and speak until you can get some more evidence. And when will we see a former prime minister or a former minister of government comes out and speak bluntly, like the former prime minister of Trinidad and Tobago, who came out and speak about members of parliament or politicians involved in drug trafficking? When will we ever see that in Jamaica? When will we ever see that in Jamaica? And my take on all of this, I believe that the Americans are watching Jamaica very keenly. I believe that the Americans are watching Jamaica very, very keenly. Whether we want to believe it yes or no, that's what I believe. If CARICOM remains silent, who will speak for the Caribbean? If Andrew Holness does not lead, who will stand between the warships and the fishing boats, between superpower and a small island state? Silent in the time of tyranny is not always gold. It can be dangerous. So tonight, we as well-thinking people and well-thinking Caribbean people, we must call on the chairman of CARICOM, and as what Dr. Mohammed said, that CARICOM must come out with one voice, one decisive voice. And the people of the Caribbean is calling on CARICOM and the leader of CARICOM, the chairman of CARICOM, to come out with one voice and speak on the behalf of the people of CARICOM. This has been Make We Talk, the heartbeat of the Caribbean, the heartbeat of Caribbean truth. I am Jeffrey Tavares. Until next time, speak the truth, stand firm, and never be silent. For the future of the Caribbean lies in our hands, and the future of Jamaica lies in the hands of the people of Jamaica. Good night, Jamaica. Good night, Caribbean. And good night to our brothers and sisters across the diaspora. Have a great night, everybody. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. I want to say thanks to Walk in Divine Purpose, who comes on. And also remember that the Make We Talk program has a beauty website, a beauty line website. You can go to it. Is chicasbeauty.reman.com. That's chicasbeauty.reman.com. Go there and buy your beauty supply. You will like it. Until you hear my voice again, have a great night, everybody. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. Good night, everyone.
Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth. Make we reason. Make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va. No upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica. Make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth. Make we reason. Make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va. No upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica. Make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth. Make we reason. Make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va. No upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica. Make we talk. Make we talk.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk.